Episode 7. This letter was feigned to be written by Ahoshta, and this was the signification of the writing. Ahoshta Tarkan to Kidrash Tarkan, salutations and peace. In the name of Tash, the irresistible, the inexorable. Be it known to you that as I made my journey toward your house to perform the contract of marriage between me and your daughter, Aravistarkina, it pleased fortune and the gods that I fell in with her in the forest when she had ended the rites and sacrifices of Zadina, according to the custom of maidens. And when I learned who she was, being delighted with her beauty and discretion, I became inflamed with love, and it appeared to me that the sun would be dark to me if I did not marry her at once. Accordingly, I prepared the necessary sacrifices and married your daughter the same hour that I met her, and have returned with her to my own house. And we both pray and charge you to come hither as speedily as you may, that we may be delighted with your face and speech. And also that you may bring with you the dowry of my wife, which by reason of my great charges and expenses I require without delay. And because thou and I are as brothers, I assure myself that you will not be angered by the haste of my marriage, which is wholly occasioned by the great love I bear your daughter. And I commit you to the care of all the gods. As soon as I had done this, I rode on in all haste from Azimbalda, fearing no pursuit, and expecting that my father, having received such a letter, would send messages to Ahoshta or go to him himself, and that before the matter was discovered, I should be beyond Tashbaan. And that is the pith of my story, until this very night when I was chased by lions and met you at the swimming of the salt water. And what happened to the girl, the one you drugged? Asked Shasta. Doubtless she was beaten for sleeping late, said Aravis coolly. But she was a tool and spy of my stepmother's. I am glad they should beat her. I say that was hardly fair, said Shasta. I did not do any of these things for the sake of pleasing you, said Aravis. And there's another thing I don't understand about that story, said Shasta. You're not grown up. I don't believe you're any older than I am. I don't believe you're as old. How could you be getting married at your age? Aravis said nothing, but Bree at once said,
Shasta, don't display your ignorance. They're always married at that age in the great Tarkan families.
Shasta turned very red, though it was hardly light enough for the others to see this, and felt snubbed. Aravis asked Bree for his story. Bree told it, and Shasta thought that he put in a great deal more than he needed about the falls and bad riding. Bree obviously thought it very funny, but Aravis did not laugh. When Bree had finished, they all went to sleep. Next day, all 4 of them, 2 horses and 2 humans, continued their journey together. Shasta thought it had been much pleasanter when he and Bree were on their own, for now it was Bree and Aravis who did nearly all the talking. Bree had lived a long time in Calormen and had always been among Tarkans and Tarkans' horses, and so, of course, he knew a great many of the same people and places that Aravis knew. She would always be saying things like, but if you were at the fight of Zulindre, then you would have seen my cousin, Alimash. And Bree would answer,
Oh, yes, Alimash. He was only captain of the chariots, you know. I don't quite hold with chariots or the kind of horses who draw chariots. That's not real cavalry. But he is a worthy nobleman. He filled my nose bag with sugar after the taking of tea bath.
Or else Bree would say,
I was down at the lake of Mesril that summer.
and Erebus would say, Oh, Mesril, I had a friend there, Las Rauliantarquina. What a delightful place it is. Those gardens and the Valley of the Thousand Perfumes. Now, Bree was not in the least trying to leave Shasta out of things, though Shasta sometimes nearly thought he was. People who know a lot of the same things can hardly help talking about them, and if you're there, you can't hardly help feeling that you're out of it. When the mayor was rather shy before a great war horse like Bree and said very little, and Erebus never spoke to Shasta at all if she could help it. Soon, however, they had more important things to think of. They were getting near Tashbaan. There were more and larger villages and more people on the roads. They now did nearly all their traveling at night and hid as best they could during the day. And at every halt they argued and argued about what they were to do when they reached Tashbaan. Everyone had been putting off this difficulty, but now it could be put off no longer. During these discussions, Erebus became a very little, less unfriendly to Shasta. One usually gets on better with people when one is making plans than when one is talking about nothing in particular. Bree said the first thing now to do was to fix a place where they would all promise to meet on the far side of Tashbaan, even if by any ill luck they got separated in passing the city. He said the best place would be the tombs of the ancient kings on the very edge of the desert.
Things like great stone beehives, he said. You can't possibly miss them. And the best of it is that none of the Calamines will go near them because they think the place is haunted by ghouls and are afraid of it.
Erebus asked if it wasn't really haunted by ghouls, but Bree said he was a free Narnian horse and didn't believe in these Calamine tales. And then Shasta said he wasn't a Calamine either and didn't care a straw about these old stories of ghouls. This wasn't quite true, but it rather impressed Erebus, though at the moment it annoyed her too. And of course she said she didn't mind any number of ghouls either, so it was settled that the tombs should be their assembly place on the other side of Tashbaan, and everyone felt they were getting on very well, till Hwin humbly pointed out that the real problem was not where they should go when they had got through Tashbaan, but how they were to get through it.
We'll settle that tomorrow, ma'am, said Bree. Time for a little sleep now.
But it wasn't easy to settle. Erebus's first suggestion was that they should swim across the river below the city during the night and not go into Tashbaan at all. But Bree had two reasons against this. One was that the river mouth was very wide, and it would be far too long a swim for Hwin to do, especially with a rider on her back. He thought it would be too long for himself, too, but he said much less about that. The other was that it would be full of shipping, and of course anyone on the deck of a ship who saw two horses swimming past would be almost certain to be inquisitive. Shasta thought they should go up the river above Tashbaan and cross it where it was narrower. But Bree explained that there were gardens and pleasure houses on both banks of the river for miles, and that there would be Tarkans and Tarkinas living in them and riding about the roads and having water parties on the river. In fact, it would be the most likely place in the world for meeting someone who would recognize Erebus, or even himself. We'll have to have a disguise, said Shasta. Hwin said it looked to her as if the safest thing was to go right through the city itself from gate to gate, because one was less likely to be noticed in the crowd. But she approved of the idea of disguise as well. She said,
Both the humans will have to dress in rags and look like peasants or slaves, and all Erebus's armor and our saddles and things must be made into bundles and put on our backs, and the children must pretend to drive us, and people will think we're only pack horses.
My dear Win, said Aravis rather scornfully, as if anyone could mistake Bree for anything but a war horse, however you disguised him.
I should think not, indeed,
said Bree, snorting and letting his ears go back ever so little.